Good afternoon. Welcome to our study session this afternoon. We are here to recognize our retirees and show them some appreciation. So Mr. Shane Ettinger, if you will take care of that for us, please.
I would be happy to. Thank you. Good afternoon, Board President Christensen, Superintendent Whitney, and members of the board. Today I'm honored to present to you our colleagues and friends who have retired or are retiring in the 2017-2018 school year. Now this year we have 38 retirees who represent a combined total of 811 years of service to Pasco students and families and this community. That's a lot. In fact, 2 of our retirees are each responsible for more than 40 years of continuous service to Pasco students. For the sake of brevity, I won't talk about how highly trained and educated these people are or how hard they have worked to continue to improve themselves for the good of Pasco kids. I can tell you, though, we have a fair share of Wildcats, Huskies, Eagles, and as always, no shortage of Cougs this year. We even have a Whitworth Pirate among our ranks. As we celebrate their careers and accomplishments, you will note some recurring themes: hard work, caring, compassion, and dedication. The word that you'll hear most often, however, is students, because at the heart of each of these stories is an unwavering commitment to provide the best education possible to the children of Pasco. So, when I read your name, if you are here tonight, please come forward. And board members, if you'll take your spots as at the receiving line, we'll get underway. Our first honoree tonight is Insoon Anderson. She's been with us for 16 years working in nutrition services, most recently at McClintock STEM Elementary. Kathy Battershell Duran. Kathy has been a special education teacher with us for 21 years, most recently at McClintock STEM Elementary. Carolyn Beck. Oh, there she is. Very good. Kathy Battershell Duran has spent a large part of her life teaching life skills to Pasco students. Kathy's career with Pasco Schools started in 1997 when she accepted an offer to serve as a special education teacher at Pasco High. But after spending 5 years working with teenagers, Kathy decided that younger kids were more her speed. Kathy moved to Longfellow Elementary in 2003 and spent 5 years with the Longhorns, working as a life skills teacher. Kathy found her calling in those life skills classes and continued to teach them for 6 years at Whittier and then another 2 years at Captain Gray. In 2015, she made one last move to work as a life skills teacher at McClintock STEM Elementary. Kathy's colleagues have often admired her ability to show great patience and dedication toward her students in the life skills classroom. She also earned praise for developing a warm and welcoming culture in her classroom, continually striving to be creative and using engaging activities to support her students. Thank you, Kathy, for sharing your talents with our students and continually encouraging them to exceed their expectations. Carolyn Beck. Carolyn Beck was with us for 29 years, many of those as a library clerk at Stevens Middle School. Donna Beck. Donna Beck has been a nutrition services employee as well as a bus attendant for the last 15 years. Jim Brown. Jim Brown has been a teacher with Pasco Schools all of those years, 44 years I should say, at Pasco High School, a teacher and instructional coach as well as the high school golf team coach for many years. Suzanne Carroll. Suzanne Carroll has been a paraeducator at Robinson Elementary for, most recently at Robinson Elementary. She's been with us for 8 years. Shirley Coleman. Shirley's been a bus driver and playground monitor with us. She worked at McLaughlin Middle School, 14 years with the school district. John Combs. John Combs was an HVAC and refrigeration specialist with us in the maintenance department for the last 6 years. Marina Compson. Marina Compson has been a French and Spanish teacher with us at Pasco High School and Chiawana High School for the last 15 years. Judy Dietzen. Judy, thank you for coming. Judy Dietzen joined the Pasco School District in 2007. Her career in education spans nearly 3 decades. She spent 15 years in the Mount Baker School District before joining the faculty at Pasco High as a science teacher. Judy's a National Board Certified Teacher in Science and Early Adolescence. In Pasco, her focus has primarily been on her colleagues. She's been a key trainer in the Guided Language Acquisition Design, or GLAD, training program for the last 10 years. In 2014, she was honored with a Staff Achievement Award for her efforts in that arena. In 2016, Judy was honored by ESD 123 with the coveted Crystal Apple Award. Mrs. Dietzen has been described as a true leader at Pasco High who was always involved in supporting and developing best practices and searching for resources so that teachers could find instructional success on a daily basis. Her colleagues also admired her ability to create warm and sincere relationships with her students while still setting demanding learning targets and achievement expectations. Thank you, Judy, for your commitment to our students and staff members to help them become the best that they can be. Danny Dunnigan. Danny Dunnigan graduated from college with a bachelor's degree in education. It would take him several years, though, before he would finally become a teacher. Before Danny would join the PSD family in 2007, he spent several years working for the State Department of Transportation, also spent several summers working for a seafood company up in Alaska. In 1992, Danny received a commendation from the State Patrol for his quick response to a dangerous situation involving a man who was trying to commit suicide. Thanks to Danny's efforts, that man did not take his own life that day. Danny joined the staff at McLaughlin Middle School in 2007, teaching mathematics. His supervisors shared these observations after that first year. It's obvious that Mr. Dunnigan brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the classroom as a first-year teacher. His engaging attitude regarding student learning makes every situation a teaching moment. An assistant principal at the time, John Kazir, added these thoughts. Mr. Dunnigan treats students with dignity and respect. He treats them as individuals, knowing each by name and need, and modifying his teaching to meet the needs of all his students. His quick wit, humor, and nurturing personality motivated and inspired one student to learn and even like algebra. Thank you, Danny, for sharing some of your life experiences with our students as they prepare for the next chapters in their lives. Marie Farron. Marie's been a teacher with us at several schools, most recently at Angelo Elementary. She's been in this district for 15 years. Sheila Fricke. For the last 21 years, Sheila has been a busy lady in our school kitchens. Her career in Pasco Schools started in '97, and for the next 8 years, she would spend time as a cashier and food service helper in the cafeterias at Frost and Whittier, as well as all 3 of our middle schools, McLaughlin, Ochoa, and Stevens. In 2005, she moved to Robinson Elementary and spent 6 years making sure the Comets were always well fed before she moved to Chess Elementary to manage the kitchen there. She's been praised by her peers for always being cheerful, friendly, and willing to help others, and her efforts also earned her a Staff Achievement Award in 2014. That same year, Sheila shifted gears a bit and became a training manager for the Nutrition Services Department. In that role, she was responsible for bringing new kitchen workers up to speed and making sure that they had the skills they needed to make our cafeterias as efficient as possible. Thank you, Sheila, for your 2 decades of service and commitment to Pasco Schools. Kevin Gerard. In this day and age, it's hard to find someone who will stay in the same place for more than a few years, much less more than 3 decades. For Kevin Gerard, though, McGee Elementary has always been home. His career at McGee started in 1986. Over the years, he's moved around from 6th grade to 3rd grade to 4th grade to 5th grade, but his passion for math and science has always been strong. Former McGee principal Robin Hay described Kevin as their resident math guru. He was the go-to person if anyone had a question about math, and he shared that love of math with his students, their parents, and his fellow staff members. Mrs. Hay says Gerard is solely responsible for hundreds of students gaining a firm grasp of math and even a little love for it during their time spent in his classroom. Thank you, Kevin, for your decades of dedication to the McGee Mustangs and your efforts to go the extra mile to help all of our students be successful. Vicki Hansen. School clerks and secretaries are often the unsung heroes who work behind the scenes to make their schools and departments run smoothly. Vicki Hansen is one of those unsung heroes. Her Pasco career started 25 years ago when she filled in as needed as the secretary at New Horizons High School. That job eventually became hers permanently. She stayed with the Phoenix for 5 years before moving to the district office to work with the Student Services Department in 1998. Over the years, Vicki has supported principals with state reports on attendance, discipline, and truancy petitions. At every stop, her supervisors have described her as knowledgeable and efficient with exceptional people skills that could diffuse and de-escalate conversations with even the most upset parents. In 2013, Vicki was honored with a Staff Achievement Award. As her supervisor, Willie Stone praised Vicki's involvement in the implementation of the McKinney-Vento Act, saying that her work helped contribute to Pasco being at the forefront when it came to identifying and providing services to youth and their families in homeless situations. Thank you, Vicki, for sharing your calm demeanor and sense of humor with us, and for your unwavering commitment to help Pasco kids. Denise Hockaday. Denise has been with us for 35 years, working in the Nutrition Services Department in several kitchens around the district. Jody Hughes. Jody Hughes has been an administrator, most recently an assistant principal at Livingston Elementary. She's been with the school district, 2 different tenures with the school district, a total of 26 years. Susan Johnson. Susan Johnson joined Pasco's Nutrition Services team in 1989, getting her start as a kitchen helper at Captain Gray. She spent 3 years with the Sharks before moving just down the block to Pasco High. She was admired for her strong work ethic and her excellent attendance, and eventually worked her way up to assistant unit manager and then unit manager. Over the last 20 years, she's worked in the kitchens at New Horizons, Pasco High, and Ochoa Middle School. She spent the last 10 years making sure that the rockets are always full of fuel. Her supervisors have praised Susan over the years for maintaining a well-run kitchen and leading by example. Her high standards for cleanliness and safe food practices were also admired and earned her a spot on the district's safety committee. Thank you, Susan, for putting smiles on our students' faces and for making sure that they're fueled up for learning every day. Catherine Kim. Catherine Kim has been a teacher with us for 27 years, at Pasco High School and most recently at Chihuahua High School. Karen Makiboba. When Karen started her career in Pasco schools, Tom Selleck was breaking hearts as Magnum P.I. and E.T. was telling Elliot to phone home. The year was 1982. Karen was just getting her start as a substitute teacher in Pasco. 2 years later, she found her first full-time school home at Emerson Elementary. She'd spent the next 20 years at Emerson, teaching 5th graders to begin with, and then became the school's technology teacher. She's earned high praise from her peers, who describe her as a fabulous teacher that uplifts and encourages all of her students to attempt and try their very best when it comes to reading and writing. In 2006, she branched out a bit and would spend the next 8 years as a literacy coach and facilitator at Robinson, Angelo, and Emerson Elementaries. The last few years, she's been at Franklin STEM Elementary, as a reading recovery and leveled literacy intervention teacher. Over the years, she's been admired for her ability to build positive relationships with students and for differentiating the way she teaches for each student. Thank you, Karen, for treating all of your students as the unique individuals that they are and for encouraging them to reach for the stars. Kim Marsh. Kim Marsh has been with us for 17 years, most recently as the Director of Capital Projects. Marlene Meyer. The Greek philosopher Plato once said that music is a more potent instrument than any other for education. And for 22 years, Marlene Meyer did her best to make sure that Pasco students were not just introduced to music, but that it became an important part of their lives. Marlene moved to Pasco in 1994 after spending several years teaching music in Tacoma and the Dalles, Oregon. Her PSD career started at Captain Gray, and she spent 4 years making sure the Sharks were always singing a happy tune. In 1999, she moved to Whittier Elementary. During her time there, she was able to take a group of students to the Broadmoor Outlet Mall to sing Christmas carols. They also made field trips to the farmers market downtown to serenade shoppers with songs as they bartered for the best deals on produce. In 2005, Marlene helped to open the brand new Robinson Elementary. She spent the rest of her career at the corner of Lewis and Weehee, teaching hundreds of Comets the school song, a tune that Marlene actually wrote and composed during the school's first year. We are the Comet. You guys have probably heard that one. Former Principal Megan Nelson shared this about the connections that Marlene made with her students. She's a wonderful music teacher who loves what she does and shares that love of music with her students every day. Thank you, Marlene, for making a musical impact on the lives of so many Pasco students over the years. Kathy Middleton. Oh, this one was really good. Oh, well. Kathy Middleton has been with us for 10 years, most recently as a teacher at Franklin STEM Elementary. Susan Murphy. Susan Murphy's experience raising her own children would serve her well when she joined the Pasco School District's nutrition services team in 2003, after spending several years as a stay-at-home mom. She'd spent the first 2 years of her time as a substitute kitchen helper, but found her first full-time home in the kitchen at New Horizons. She spent 2 years there helping feed the Phoenix before she moved over to Chess Elementary, where she was stationed for another 4 years. In 2012, she moved back to the high school ranks, spent the last 6 years working in the kitchens of all 3 of our high schools, first at Chiawana, then at New Horizons, and finally at Pasco High. Susan was praised by her peers for always being very thoughtful and considerate of others, and for always being cheerful and kind with the students. She was also admired for always being willing to step in and help wherever help was needed. Thank you, Susan, for being a part of the nutrition services team and for always being a great team player in our kitchens. Shirley Nelson. Shirley Nelson was a clerk in our transportation department. She's been with the school district for 15 years. Pam O'Brien. There's an old saying around these parts that bulldogs always find a way home. In some cases, like Pam O'Brien, they never really left. Pam graduated from Pasco High in 1980. Oh, that little detail isn't really necessary, is it? Let's just say that when Pam first started working for Pasco Schools, Ronald Reagan was president. 3 Men and a Baby was the big movie at the box office, and The Simpsons had just made their debut on TV. Bart Simpson is still 12 years old. I don't get it. Pam started at Longfellow in 1987. She's been a Longhorn ever since. Over the years, she has filled many roles at the school, serving as a classroom aide, educational assistant, crosswalk duty, and a para-educator. Over the years, Pam has earned high praise for her ability to connect with her students. One supervisor wrote, "Pam has a gift for talking with kids on a personal level. She's someone you can trust. Even in difficult situations, Pam finds the good." Thank you, Pam, for your 3 decades of dedication to Longfellow Elementary and the thousands of students who have walked through its halls. Michael Prather. Michael has been with us for the last 5 years as a bus mechanic. Howard Roberts. Howard Roberts is a name that I'm sure everyone who's spent any quality time here in the boardroom over the last few years. Howard was our Director of Fiscal Services for the last 9 years and spent plenty of time right here in front of this podium talking with the board members about bond reports and other financial things. Mark Rudine. Mark was also a very popular member of, or has been to a lot of board meetings. He was a translator and interpreter with us for 24 years. He worked as the translator here in the board meetings for many of those years. Ellie Sanchez. Ellie Sanchez has been a fixture in Pasco Schools for more than 30 years. She got her foot in the door working as a substitute classroom aide for several years before landing her first full-time job as the bilingual teacher's aide at Frost Elementary. She was part of the Cougar family for nearly a decade, shifting over to help out with the all-day kindergarten program and also helping out as a crosswalk monitor. Between 1996 and 1999, Ellie would bounce back and forth between Livingston and Longfellow Elementaries. In 1999, she finally planted some roots at Livingston, and she would spend the next 12 years there, helping in the special education classrooms. She also jumped in to help out with math camp and the migrant summer school over the years. In 2006, Ellie was honored with the Staff Achievement Award. Her peers praised Ellie for being an extremely dependable and reliable coworker, someone who was always willing to help out where she could and always came to school with a positive attitude and a smile on her face. For the last few years, Ellie has stepped back a bit and helped out as a substitute. Now it's time, though, for her to tackle her retirement full-time. Thank you, Ellie, for your commitment to Pasco students. Guadalupe Santiago. Guadalupe's PSD career started in 1999. Prior to her time with Pasco Schools, she spent several years working with the State Migrant Council. She spent the first 5 years with us working as a substitute classroom aide. In 2004, she found her first full-time home at McLaughlin Middle School. She spent a year with the Panthers before moving over to Stevens, and in 2007, Guadalupe landed at Frost Elementary, a place that she would call home for the next 11 years. She worked primarily with Frost's bilingual students, also helped out as a crosswalk monitor. Over the years, her supervisors admired her ability to always look for the best in students and the attention she paid to each of them, making sure that they stayed on task. One teacher who worked with Guadalupe made this observation, saying, "She's the best para-educator a teacher could ever have." Thank you, Guadalupe, for always giving us your best and for always encouraging our students to be the best that they can be. Valerie Smith. Valerie was the executive assistant to the superintendent for 12 years, working under Michelle Whitney and Sondra Hill. David Spray. David was a PE and health teacher with us, also an assistant football coach at both Pasco High School and Chiawana High School. David was with the school district for 22 years. Kathleen Stordahl. Kathleen Stordahl is a longtime Ochoa Rocket, spending the last 16 years as the technology teacher there. But she got her start in the Pasco School District a few blocks down the street at Whittier Elementary in 1999. After a year, though, with the Phoenix, Kathleen decided that middle schoolers were more her speed. She made the move to McLaughlin Middle School, enjoyed 2 years there before finding her PSD home at Ochoa. In the years since, she has helped hundreds of Rocket students prepare for their future. For several years, she served as an advisor for Ochoa's yearbook club, guiding their students as they capture those middle school moments that many of them will remember for years to come. She's always been highly respected by her peers and colleagues for creating a classroom that valued learning and set high expectations for students. Her determination to stretch herself and learn new skills helped to keep her classroom activities highly engaging for her students. Thank you, Kathleen, for always putting in the extra effort to help ensure your students' success. Sally Thompson. Sally's career in the Pasco School District technically started in 1996. That's when she got her foot in the door as a substitute paraeducator and crosswalk monitor. She found her first full-time home as a lunchroom supervisor at Stevens Middle School and spent 4 years in that role before adding bus duty and paraeducator to her business card as well. From 2001 to 2016, Sally was the ultimate multitasker for the Tigers. With those 3 jobs, it's quite possible that Sally made contact with every single student at Stevens over the course of a day. She earned high praise for her work in the classroom. One of her supervising teachers shared that Sally's been a wonderful addition to my classroom. She takes initiative and completes tasks before I can even ask her. She's kind to all students, and I could not ask for a better para to work with. Other colleagues admired her patience, kindness, and empathy for the students that she worked with on a daily basis. For the last 2 years, Sally has stepped back from that full-time commitment. She's helped out in classrooms at McClintock, Captain Gray, Chess, and McGee. Now Sally will focus her full steam ahead attitude toward her retirement. Thank you, Sally, for your commitment to helping our students always do their best. Lynn Tarango. How about a little trip in the Wayback Machine? When Lynn started her career with Pasco Schools, Ronald Reagan was president, Mary Lou Retton was America's sweetheart on a Wheaties box, and the Ghostbusters ruled the box office. For those of you keeping score at home, the year was 1984. Lynn was keeping herself busy at Captain Gray Elementary, where she worked as a classroom aide for special education students and also as a bus duty and playground monitor. She stayed at Captain Gray for 10 years before moving over to Frost Elementary, where she would spend a dozen years helping out as a paraeducator. In 2011, Lynn moved back to Captain Gray to work as a para in the Early Learning Center. In 2015, she helped to open the brand new McClintock STEM Elementary, serving as a paraeducator, playground monitor, and crossing guard there. Over the years, Lynn was praised by her peers for always being a positive, dependable, and creative asset in the classroom. They also admired the great rapport that she had with students and staff and how she genuinely cared for every student she worked with. Thank you, Lynn, for your years of hard work and dedication to Pasco kids. Kay Trainer. Kay moved to the Tri-Cities in 1991. She started working with Pasco Schools in 1999 after spending several years with the Benton Franklin Head Start program. With an associate's degree in early childhood education and a bachelor's degree in human development, she spent nearly 2 decades working as a speech and language tutor with PSD's special education department. Over those years, she worked at several schools, including Frost, Captain Gray, McGee, and Livingston Elementaries. In 2014, she helped to open Franklin STEM Elementary, worked with Franklin students up to her retirement this spring. Kay was well loved and appreciated everywhere she worked, and one of her supervisors shared these thoughts. Kay's been an invaluable and integral part of the special services classroom. She's a wealth of knowledge and always a favorite amongst her students. She's a positive team player who encourages everyone around her. Thank you, Kay, for sharing your knowledge, skills, and talents with our students for so many years. And last but not least is Vicki Wright. Vicki can't be with us tonight. She has been a school nurse with the school district for 44 years, 20 years at McLaughlin Middle School and several years at Twain Elementary. In an ironic twist of fate, Vicki's actually in the hospital right now, but she's doing okay. She talked with Superintendent Whitney earlier today, and the prognosis is just fine. But we certainly want to wish her well wishes and congratulate her for 44 years with Pasco Schools. So how about a large round of applause for this year's class of retirees?